What if the Bill of Rights isn't what most people think it is? In this complete 10-part series, we go back to 1791 and read each of the first 10 amendments exactly as the framers wrote them, one single sentence at a time. No court rulings, no modern interpretations. Just the plain text, the real world of 1791, horse-drawn wagons, log cabins, and local justices of the peace, and the tyranny the framers were trying to prevent forever. You'll discover why each amendment is one unified idea, not a list of separate rules. How the framers designed every protection to stop the exact abuses they had just fought a revolution against. The massive gap between the original constitutional text and what actually happens in courtrooms and on the street today, from the First Amendment's shield for the human mind to the 10th Amendment's final anchor of limited government, this series shows the Bill of Rights as it was written, a legal fortress built to protect the individual from the return of tyranny. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. If a later law or court ruling contradicts the original text, Article 6 says it is void and cannot be enforced. That simple fact changes how you see every traffic stop, every search, every courtroom battle, and every debate about rights in 2026. Watch the full series and decide for yourself, are we still following the Constitution the framers actually ratified? Or have we quietly replaced it with judge-made rules? Drop your thoughts below. Which amendment surprised you the most? Respectful discussion always welcome. Now let's get to it.
The story of the First Amendment. In the winter of 1791, when the young United States was barely 3 years old, the people added a final non negotiable shield to their Constitution. It was one single sentence that became the First Amendment, ratified on December 15th. Its words are famous, but their origin is soaked in ink and blood. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This was never five separate rules. It is one unified shield for the human mind. The framers joined them because they knew a simple truth: if the government can own your conscience, it owns your life. The price of a word, they wrote this because they remembered the old world punishments that were still a living memory in 1791. They remembered a world where religious nonconformists had their ears cropped off in public squares or their tongues bored through with a hot iron for blasphemy. In Virginia, just a few years before the Revolution, a man could be jailed simply for preaching without a government license. The framers remembered printers like Isaiah Thomas, whose shop was hunted by the British as a forge of sedition. Thomas had to dismantle his heavy, ink stained press and smuggle it out of Boston in the middle of the night to avoid a gallows rope. They remembered Benjamin Franklin's brother James being thrown into a stone cell for a month just for poking fun at a governor's incompetence. In 1791, freedom of the press wasn't about big media corporations. It was about the right to own a hand cranked machine and tell the truth without being tortured for it. The marketplace of 1791. This promise fit a gritty, face to face world. There were no mass broadcasts, only about one newspaper for every 5 citizens. These were gutter presses, small sheets passed from hand to hand in smoky taverns until the paper literally fell apart. To peaceably assemble wasn't a formal event. It was the rowdy, shouting town meetings of New England where a cobbler could stand up and tell a wealthy landowner he was wrong. Most importantly, the petition was the direct wire to power. In a world without social media or easy travel, the petition was how a Revolutionary War widow asked for her pension, how a frontier farmer asked for a road to be built through the woods, or how Benjamin Franklin sent the first ever petition to Congress to abolish slavery in 1790. It was the only way a common person could force the government to look them in the eye. From subject to citizen, the most radical part of the First Amendment is its first word, Congress. It was a flat out no to the new federal government. It stripped the state of the power to tell you what to believe or what you could say. It turned us from subjects who exist to serve the king's will into citizens whose will the government exists to serve. The shield in 2026 today, the printing press is in your pocket, the town square is global and digital, but the stakes haven't changed. When we argue about speech today, we aren't just arguing about manners or algorithms. We are defending the same forge of sedition that Isaiah Thomas protected. The First Amendment stands as a barrier against the tongue boring of the past. It ensures that whether you are praying in a church, protesting in a digital forum, or petitioning a representative via an app in 2026, the government cannot silence you. It is the guarantee that the mind of the citizen is a fortress that no law can enter. Sources all drawn from primary historical records and official archives. Our official text of the First Amendment, National Archives, colonial criminal records, documentation of ear cropping and tongue boring for Quakers and dissenters in Massachusetts and Virginia, the memoirs of Isaiah Thomas, 1810, detailing the smuggling of the Worcester spy press, First Federal Congress petition records, National Archives, Benjamin Franklin's 1790 anti slavery petition, and veteran pension requests. The Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, 1786, drafted by Thomas Jefferson to end religious taxes. The story of the Second Amendment. In the winter of 1791, when the young United States was barely 3 years old, the people added another final non negotiable shield to their Constitution. It was one single sentence that became the Second Amendment, ratified on December 15th. Its words are short but carry the weight of a nation that had just won its freedom with muskets in hand. A well regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This was never two separate ideas. It is one unified shield for a free people. The framers joined the militia clause and the right to keep and bear arms because they knew a simple truth: a disarmed citizen is a subject, not a free man. The price of trusting a king. They wrote this because they remembered how quickly a government turns tyrannical when it alone holds the weapons. In 1775, British General Gage pulled the Boston Betrayal. He promised the people of Boston they could leave the besieged city only if they surrendered their firearms. The citizens handed over 1,778 muskets, 634 pistols, and 973 bayonets to the townhouse. Once they were disarmed, Gage broke his word, kept the guns, and held the people as prisoners in their own city. The framers had lived through the Lexington Alarm, when British troops marched to seize colonial arms and powder. They remembered how King George's soldiers had tried to leave the people defenseless while a standing army occupied their towns. They had seen what happens when only the government has guns: the Boston Massacre, the battles at Concord, and the long, bloody war that followed. The Second Amendment was written so that no American government would ever be able to disarm its own citizens the way the British had tried to do. The world of 1791. This promise fit a raw, armed frontier. Almost every free man owned a firearm, usually a smoothbore musket or a long rifle, and it was both a tool for survival and a badge of citizenship. There was no national police force and no standing army large enough to protect the vast wilderness. Under the Militia Act of 1792, passed just months after the Bill of Rights, every able bodied citizen was legally required to provide his own gear: a good musket or firelock, a bayonet and belt, two spare flints, a knapsack, and a pouch with at least 24 cartridges. The law didn't say you may own a gun, it said you must be ready. To the framers, a well regulated militia didn't mean government controlled. In 1791, well regulated was a mechanical term that meant in good working order, like a well regulated clock that keeps perfect time. It described a citizenry that was disciplined, practiced, and functional. In that world, keep and bear arms was not abstract. It meant the right to have a musket over the fireplace, a pistol in your saddlebag while riding the frontier trails, or a rifle in your wagon as you moved west. It was the practical guarantee that the people themselves, not a distant king or standing army, would remain the final defenders of liberty. From subject to citizen, the most radical part of the Second Amendment is its last five words shall not be infringed. It was a flat out no to any federal attempt to disarm the people. Noah Webster captured the framers' thinking in 1787. Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword because the whole body of the people are armed and constitute a force superior to any band of regular troops. The framers had just fought a war against the greatest empire on earth. They refused to trade one tyrant for another. They believed that an armed citizenry was the ultimate check against government overreach, the last resort when all other protections failed. They turned the people from subjects who could be disarmed at a king's whim into citizens who kept the means of their own freedom in their own hands. The government didn't arm the people were the armory. The shield in 2026 today, the arms have changed from flintlock muskets to modern firearms, but the stakes have not. The printing press is now in your pocket, yet the principle remains the same. A free people must never be left defenseless against their own government. Whether the threat comes from a foreign invader, a breakdown of order, or the slow creep of tyranny, the Second Amendment still stands as the framers' clear command that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It is the guarantee that the citizen, not the state, remains the ultimate guardian of liberty. Sources all drawn from primary historical records and official archives. Meyer official text of the Second Amendment, National Archives. Boston gun sweep of 1775, General Gage's orders and town records of surrendered weapons, documented in contemporary Boston newspapers and British military correspondence. Militia Act of 1792, exact gear requirements, United States statutes at large. Noah Webster, an examination into the leading principles of the federal Constitution, 1787. Lexington and Concord events and British disarmament attempts, 1774, 1775, recorded in eyewitness accounts and colonial militia records. Founding era militia laws and debates in the First Congress and state ratifying conventions, preserved in the Annals of Congress and Eliot's debates. The story of the Third Amendment. In the winter of 1791, when the young United States was barely 3 years old, the people added another final, non negotiable shield to their Constitution. It was one single sentence that became the Third Amendment, ratified on December 15th. Its words are quiet, but cut straight to the heart of what it means to be free in your own home. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. This was never two separate rules. It is one unified shield for the sanctuary of the home. The framers joined the peacetime ban and the wartime limit because they knew a simple truth. When soldiers can force their way into your house, you are no longer the master of your own castle. You are the tenant of your own government. The price of an occupying army, they wrote this because they remembered the daily humiliation and terror of British troops living inside American homes. The Quartering Acts of 1765 and 1774 turned quartering into a deliberate weapon of punishment. If a town like Boston grew too rebellious, the king didn't send a letter, he sent a regiment and ordered the soldiers to live in the homes of the ringleaders. These armed strangers became policemen in the parlor, monitoring every conversation, eating the family's winter stores, and exerting 24/7 psychological pressure. The framers remembered families forced to quarter dozens of redcoats at a time, soldiers who took the best beds, drank the household ale, broke furniture, and made it clear the house now belonged to the crown. Putting an armed, often poorly behaved foreign soldier under the same roof as a man's wife and daughters was seen as a deep moral violation, a direct threat to the sanctity of the domestic circle and a family's honor. In a subsistence economy, one extra soldier could eat enough food in a month to leave the family facing starvation by spring. By banning quartering, the framers made it brutally expensive for any government to keep a large standing army. If soldiers had to be housed in expensive barracks instead of private homes, the military could never grow large enough to occupy the lives of the citizens. The Third Amendment was written so that no American government would ever again turn a citizen's house into a barracks or use soldiers as a living tax to break a town's spirit. The world of 1791, this promise fit a world where the home was everything. Most Americans lived in simple log cabins, farmhouses, or small wooden dwellings they had built with their own hands. There was no standing army worth mentioning. The new nation relied on citizen militias. A soldier showing up at your door demanding a bed and supper was not just an inconvenience, it was an act of tyranny. The amendment drew a hard line. In peacetime, never. In wartime, only if Congress passed a specific law and the owner agreed. The home was the one place where a free man could shut the door and say, "This is mine." From subject to citizen, the most radical part of the Third Amendment is its absolute protection of the home. It told the new federal government that even in an emergency, it could not treat private houses like public property. The framers turned the people from subjects whose doors could be kicked in by royal troops into citizens whose homes were their castles, off limits to soldiers unless the owner said yes. It was a direct answer to the British practice that had helped spark the revolution. The shield in 2026, today, the Third Amendment is rarely tested in court, yet its principle remains alive. It stands as a quiet but unbreakable reminder that the military serves the people, not the other way around. Whether the threat is a foreign army or a domestic crisis, the government cannot turn your house into its barracks without your consent. In 2026, just as in 1791, the home is still the ultimate sanctuary. The Third Amendment guarantees that the soldier's boot never crosses your threshold unless you open the door yourself. Sources all drawn from primary historical records and official archives. Official text of the Third Amendment, National Archives. Quartering Acts of 1765 and 1774, British statutes and colonial complaints recorded in the Declaration of Independence. Accounts of British troops quartered in Boston and New York homes, 1770s, documented in contemporary letters, diaries, and town records, including General Gage's orders, debates in the First Congress and state ratifying conventions preserved in the Annals of Congress, and Eliot's debates, founding era understanding of the home as castle, reflected in English common law and early American state constitutions. The story of the Fourth Amendment. In the winter of 1791, when the young United States was barely 3 years old, the people of the new nation added a powerful promise to their Constitution. It came in the form of one single, carefully written sentence that became the Fourth Amendment to the Bill of Rights, officially ratified on December 15th of that year. The exact words read, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." This was never meant to be two separate rules. It is one unified idea. The framers joined the two clauses with the word "and" on purpose because they belong together. The warrant process, probable cause, oath, or affirmation, and a particular description is the practical safeguard that keeps searches from becoming unreasonable. They wrote this law for a very real and deeply personal reason. Their parents and grandparents had fled Europe to escape tyranny, and the colonists themselves had just fought a revolution against King George III's officers, who used hated general warrants and writs of assistance. Those blank check documents let any British official ransack homes, wagons, or personal papers at any time, without cause, without an oath, and without describing what they wanted. The framers remembered the fear and humiliation of those raids. They remembered how British agents had stormed the homes and printing shops of writers and printers who dared criticize the king, raids that turned private letters and political pamphlets into tools of oppression. That is why they specifically protected papers. They understood that if the government could read your private thoughts or unsend letters without a real reason, you were not truly free to think or speak. They treated even the humblest frontier log cabin as a man's castle, a sacred sanctuary where the law itself stood at the door to block arbitrary intrusion. Even a leaking roof shack was off limits unless the government followed strict rules. In 1791, that promise fit the rugged world people actually lived in. There were no cars, no trucks, no engines, Only about 12,000 to 13,000 horse drawn carriages and wagons in the entire country for nearly 4 million people. Most families traveled on foot or horseback, carrying everything they owned in those wagons as they moved west to new settlements. Effects meant the tools, clothes, letters, and goods loaded in those wagons or carried on a person. Homes were mostly modest farmhouses or cabins people built themselves. In that mobile frontier life, the Fourth Amendment promised that neither home nor wagon could be searched without following the strict warrant rules. Getting a warrant was straightforward but serious, and it was deliberately kept local. A constable or citizen would walk to the local justice of the peace, usually a neighbor who lived in the same community, and would have to face those same citizens at the market the next day. The requester had to swear an oath under God that a crime had occurred, give specific facts showing probable cause, and ask for a warrant that acted like a physical map. In a world without street addresses or GPS, the description had to be astonishingly precise, not just the Smith farm, but something like the third barn to the east of the creek on the property of John Smith. This particularity requirement prevented fishing expeditions, officers poking around for anything they might find once inside. Only then could a lawful search happen. If an officer searched without that proper warrant outside the narrow old common law exceptions like chasing a known fleeing felon, he could be sued personally for trespass. Juries often awarded big damages, sometimes even punitive awards, to punish the abuse of power. That civil lawsuit was the real world teeth behind the amendment. The officer himself risked his own money and reputation. Yet, as the world changed, so did the way we understand this one sentence. In 1791, the amendment was rooted in property. If the government did not physically touch your person, house, paper, or effect, it usually had not violated the right. But technology changed everything. In 1967, in the landmark case Katz v. United States, the Supreme Court recognized that the government could now search you without ever laying a hand on your belongings, such as by wiretapping a public phone booth. The focus shifted from mere physical intrusion to protecting your reasonable expectation of privacy. The castle was no longer just made of logs, it became a bubble of privacy that could follow you even into a public space. The modern world also brought a new challenge the framers could only imagine: the third party problem. In 1791, your papers were locked in your desk. Today, they are stored on servers owned by giant corporations, your emails, photos, and location data held by Google, Apple, or your internet provider. For a time, the law suggested that by sharing data with a provider, you forfeited your Fourth Amendment protection. But the spirit of the amendment is reclaiming that ground. In the Carpenter case, the Supreme Court began walking this back, ruling that some digital data is so revealing it still requires a warrant, just as a wagon did not lose its protection simply because it was rolling down a public road. Our digital effects should not lose their protection just because they sit in the cloud. We are returning to the framers' core insight. Security is about the relationship between the citizen and the state, regardless of the technology used to bridge the gap. Even the teeth of the amendment have changed. In 1791, the remedy was personal, a trespass lawsuit that could cost the rogue officer dearly. Today, we mainly rely on the exclusionary rule. Instead of the officer losing his own money, the government loses the evidence. It gets thrown out of court. Some historians argue this modern remedy is actually weaker because the officer rarely faces personal consequences anymore, while a 1791 jury was a terrifying prospect for any constable who overstepped. So the Fourth Amendment is not some dusty relic or court made rule. It is the direct answer to the tyranny our ancestors fled and fought. By demanding that probable cause, an oath, and a particular description come before any search of a person, house, paper, or wagon, the framers turned a simple promise of security into a real everyday safeguard for both body and mind. The two halves of that one sentence still work as one. The right against unreasonable searches is protected precisely by the warrant process. Whether the effect is a horse drawn wagon carrying survival gear or a smartphone carrying your entire life's data, the amendment stands as a shield not just for property, but for the soul and the intellect, so that no government can ever again treat its citizens as subjects to be searched at will. Sources all drawn from primary historical records and official archives. Official text of the Fourth Amendment, National Archives, Ratification History, Library of Congress and State Records, colonial grievances over general warrants and writs of assistance, documented in the Declaration of Independence and James Otis's 1761 arguments, 1791 population and transportation data, U.S. Census of 1790, and Virginia personal property tax records, common law warrant practice, the Castle Doctrine, and trespass remedies reflected in founding era cases such as Entick v. Carrington, 1765, and early American court records. Katz v. United States, 1967, and Carpenter v. United States, 2018, Supreme Court opinions. The story of the Fifth Amendment. In the winter of 1791, when the young United States was barely 3 years old, the people of the new nation added another final non negotiable shield to the Constitution. It was one single sweeping sentence that became the Fifth Amendment, ratified on December 15th. Its words are long but fiercely protective. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. This was never five separate rules. It is one unified shield for the rights of the accused and the security of property. The framers packed every protection into one sentence because they knew a simple truth: the government has infinite time, infinite money, and the power of the sword. The individual has only his life, his liberty, and his land. The price of arbitrary power. They wrote this because they remembered the horror of British courts that operated without mercy or fairness. The Star Chamber had become a symbol of tyranny, secret trials, forced confessions, and punishment without a grand jury. Colonists had seen neighbors dragged before royal judges and forced into the cruel trilemma: swear an oath to God to tell the truth before knowing the charges. Lie and you committed a mortal sin, hell. Tell the truth and you confessed, jail or execution. Stay silent and you were jailed for contempt. The framers remembered how easily the government could ruin a man by trying him again and again until he ran out of money for a lawyer, lost his job, and his family starved. This was the war of attrition. They remembered British forces seizing farms and property for military use and leaving owners with nothing: no compensation, no appeal. The Fifth Amendment was written so that no American government would ever again wield that kind of unchecked power over its own people. The world of 1791. This promise fit a world where most people were farmers and craftsmen living on land they had cleared with their own hands. A grand jury of 12 to 23 ordinary neighbors became the ultimate neighbor's veto. Before any prosecutor could even start a case, he had to convince the community that it wasn't a political hit job or a personal vendetta. Due process meant you could not be thrown in jail or lose your farm without a fair hearing before a jury of your peers. Just compensation ended feudalism in America. In England, the king technically owned all land and you were merely a tenant. The Fifth Amendment declared that you owned your land outright, allodial title. If the government needed your field for a road or fort, it had to pay you a fair market price. Otherwise, it was simple theft. Self incrimination protection meant no royal official could torture or trick you into becoming the instrument of your own destruction. In that rugged, self reliant society, the Fifth Amendment was the guarantee that even the poorest farmer or tradesman could stand equal before the law and keep what he had earned. From subject to citizen, the most radical part of the Fifth Amendment is its repeated no person language. It applied to everyone, even the unpopular, even the accused. The framers turned the people from subjects who could be ruined at a king's whim into citizens whose life, liberty, and property were protected by strict written rules. They put the government in a straitjacket. Double jeopardy forced the state to bring its best case the first time and then leave the citizen alone. The grand jury gave the neighbors the on/off switch of justice. Due process demanded the government follow the written rules. Just compensation turned the government from a thief into a buyer. The Fifth Amendment is the straitjacket on the state, ensuring that the government's immense power is always checked by the simple human demand for fairness. The shield in 2026, today, the Fifth Amendment still stands as a fortress. Miranda warnings, "You have the right to remain silent," flowed directly from the self incrimination clause that ended the cruel trilemma. Double jeopardy prevents the state from bankrupting citizens through endless trials. Eminent domain battles invoke the just compensation rule so the government cannot seize your home without paying the market price. Due process protects against arbitrary government actions in schools, workplaces, and courts. Whether the issue is a grand jury deciding if a case should even go to trial, protection from being tried twice for the same crime, or a family fighting to keep the farm their ancestors built, the Fifth Amendment continues to say the same thing the framers wrote in 1791. The government cannot take your life, liberty, or property without playing by the rules. So the Fifth Amendment is not some dusty legal technicality. It is the direct answer to the Star Chamber, forced confessions, and uncompensated seizures our ancestors fled and fought. By demanding fair process and fair payment in one unified sentence, the framers turned a simple promise of justice into a real everyday safeguard for every citizen. It is the guarantee that no government can ever again treat its people as property to be used or broken at will. Sources all drawn from primary historical records and official archives. Official text of the Fifth Amendment, National Archives, Star Chamber abuses, and the cruel trilemma, documented in English in colonial legal records. British seizures of colonial property during the Revolution, recorded in the Declaration of Independence and contemporary accounts. Debates in the First Congress and state ratifying conventions, preserved in the Annals of Congress and Eliot's debates. Founding era understanding of due process, grand juries, and just compensation, reflected in early state constitutions and common law. Miranda v. Arizona, 1966, and modern takings cases, Supreme Court opinions, the story of the Sixth Amendment. In the winter of 1791, when the young United States was barely 3 years old, the people of the new nation added another final, non negotiable shield to their Constitution. It was one single sweeping sentence that became the Sixth Amendment, ratified on December 15th. Its words are long but fiercely protective. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. This was never six separate rules. It is one unified shield for the accused in criminal prosecutions. The framers packed every protection into one sentence because they knew a simple truth. When the government can drag you into court, hide the charges, use secret witnesses, deny you a lawyer, and keep you locked up for years, you are no longer a citizen, you are a prisoner of the state. The price of secret justice, they wrote this because they remembered the nightmare of British courts that operated in darkness and profit. Vice Admiralty courts in the colonies had no juries. The judges were appointed by the crown and often paid a commission, sometimes 5%, of the value of every cargo they confiscated. This conviction bonus gave the judge a direct financial interest in finding you guilty. Colonists had seen neighbors hauled hundreds or even thousands of miles away for trial, shipped across the Atlantic to England under laws that allowed kidnap trials for treason. A Georgia farmer could suddenly stand alone in a London courtroom with no money, no friends, no character witnesses, and no one who knew his reputation. The government could use secret depositions, written statements from witnesses who never appears, so you could never look them in the eye or challenge their lies. The framers remembered how the Crown denied defendants the right to call their own witnesses or even have a lawyer in many cases. A man could be accused, imprisoned for years, and ruined before he ever saw the inside of a courtroom. The Sixth Amendment was written so that no American government would ever again turn the courtroom into a trap. The world of 1791. This promise fit a world where justice was local and personal. Most Americans lived in small towns or on frontier farms. A speedy and public trial meant your case could not be delayed for years while you rotted in jail. An impartial jury meant 12 ordinary neighbors from your own county, not royal appointees from London who knew the local facts and could not be bribed by distant officials. Confronted with the witnesses meant you could look your accuser in the eye and cross examine him in open court, forcing the truth into the light instead of hiding behind secret papers. Compulsory process meant you could force your own witnesses to appear. Assistance of counsel meant the government could not ban you from having a lawyer. In that face to face society, the Sixth Amendment guaranteed that even the poorest farmer or tradesman would get a fair fight in a public courthouse, not a secret royal proceeding. From subject to citizen, the most radical part of the Sixth Amendment is its opening words: the accused shall enjoy the right. It applied to everyone, even the guilty, even the unpopular. The framers turned the people from subjects who could be railroaded in secret into citizens who were guaranteed a fair, open, and speedy day in court. They forced the government to play by rules that leveled the playing field. The state could not hide the charges, hide the witnesses, delay the trial indefinitely, or deny you a lawyer. The courtroom became a place where the citizen could stand equal to the power of the government. The shield in 2026, today the Sixth Amendment still stands as a fortress. The right to a speedy trial prevents the government from locking people up for years without a hearing. The right to a public trial keeps justice visible instead of hidden behind closed doors. The Confrontation Clause stops the use of secret informants or unchallengeable accusations. The right to counsel, once only a protection against being banned from having a lawyer, evolved in 1963 with Gideon v. Weiss Wainwright into the guarantee that the government must provide a lawyer if you are poor. Whether the issue is a defendant waiting years for trial, a lawyer fighting for the right to cross examine a witness, or a citizen demanding to know exactly what he is accused of. The Sixth Amendment continues to say the same thing the framers wrote in 1791. The government must give every accused person a fair, open, and speedy chance to defend himself. So the Sixth Amendment is not some technical legal checklist. It is the direct answer to the conviction bonus courts, the kidnap trials across the ocean, and the hidden accusations our ancestors fled and fought. By demanding a speedy and public trial with every tool of defense in one unified sentence, the framers turned a simple promise of fairness into a real, everyday safeguard for every citizen. It is the guarantee that no government can ever again treat an accused person as guilty until it proves its case in open court before a jury of the people. Sources, all drawn from primary historical records and official archives. Official text of the Sixth Amendment, National Archives. Vice Admiralty courts, conviction bonus, and denial of jury trials in the colonies, documented in the Declaration of Independence and colonial grievances. British laws shipping colonists to England for trial. Transportation Acts, recorded in parliamentary statutes and contemporary pamphlets. Use of secret depositions and denial of counsel, recorded in colonial legal accounts. Debates in the First Congress and state ratifying conventions, preserved in the Annals of Congress and Eliot's debates. Founding era understanding of speedy trial, confrontation, and counsel rights, reflected in early state constitutions and common law. Gideon v. Wainwright, 1963, and modern speedy trial cases, Supreme Court opinions. The story of the Seventh Amendment. In the winter of 1791, when the young United States was barely 3 years old, the people of the new nation added another final non negotiable shield to their Constitution. It was one single sweeping sentence that became the Seventh Amendment, ratified on December 15th. Its words are short but fiercely protective of everyday justice. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved. and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. This was never two separate rules. It is one unified shield for the right to a jury in civil cases. The framers joined the preservation of jury trials with the rule against judges second guessing the facts because they knew a simple truth. When the government or the powerful can take your money, your land, or your reputation without a jury of your neighbors, you are no longer a free citizen. You are at the mercy of the courthouse. The price of judge only justice. They wrote this because they remembered how the British had stripped colonists of jury trials in civil disputes. Royal officials used vice admiralty courts, judge only proceedings, where the judge was often paid a commission, sometimes 5%, of everything he confiscated. Even worse, the Crown could force a New York merchant or a Virginia farmer to travel all the way to Halifax, Nova Scotia, or even London to defend his property in a distant hostile court where he had no neighbors, no witnesses, and no hope of fairness. The framers remembered farms, businesses, and savings taken away in secret proceedings decided by one man in a powdered wig instead of 12 local citizens who knew the community. The Seventh Amendment was written so that no American government would ever again let powerful interests or federal judges decide civil cases without the common sense judgment of a jury of the people. The world of 1791. This promise fit a world where most lawsuits were about land, debts, contracts, or personal injuries, the everyday disputes that could ruin a farmer or craftsman. $20 was not a random number. It was roughly 40 to 60 days of hard labor for a skilled craftsman. So the amendment protected the right to a jury in any meaningful controversy of ordinary life: a horse trade gone wrong, a disputed fence line, or an unpaid debt for a winter's supply of grain. A jury of 12 local men who knew the parties, the land, and the local customs was the best guarantee of fairness. Once that jury decided the facts, no higher court or judge could simply throw out their verdict and substitute his own opinion. The framers added this judge's straitjacket because they feared elite overrule. A well educated judge might be politically bought or biased toward the wealthy, but 12 ordinary citizens would know the truth. In that rugged, self reliant society of small farms, shops, and frontier towns, the Seventh Amendment guaranteed that even the poorest citizen could demand that his neighbors, not distant officials, would decide whether he kept his land, his money, or his good name. From subject to citizen, the most radical part of the Seventh Amendment is its clear command that the right to a jury shall be preserved. It told the new federal government that it could not import the old British trick of judge only civil trials or drag people across the ocean for justice. The framers turned the people from subjects whose property and disputes could be decided by royal appointees into citizens who kept the final say in the hands of ordinary neighbors. The jury became the ultimate check on both government power and wealthy litigants. The shield in 2026, today the Seventh Amendment, still stands as a quiet but powerful protector. It guarantees the right to a jury trial in most significant civil lawsuits, contract disputes, personal injury cases, property fights, and more. The rule against re examining facts prevents federal judges from simply overriding a jury's decision. Even now, many companies try to bypass this protection with mandatory arbitration clauses hidden in the fine print of contracts, forcing people into secret judge only proceedings, the very thing the framers wrote the Seventh Amendment to stop. Whether the issue is a small business owner suing a corporation, a family fighting to keep their home, or an ordinary citizen demanding that 12 peers decide the truth, the Seventh Amendment continues to say the same thing the framers wrote in 1791. In civil cases that matter, the people, not the powerful, get the final word. So the Seventh Amendment is not some minor footnote about lawsuits. It is the direct answer to the Halifax betrayals, the judge only admiralty courts, and the seizure of property without a jury our ancestors fled and fought. By preserving the right to a jury in one unified sentence, the framers turned a simple promise of fairness into a real everyday safeguard for every citizen's money, land, and reputation. It is the guarantee that no government or powerful interest can ever again take what belongs to the people without first facing a jury of their peers. Sources all drawn from primary historical records and official archives. Official text of the Seventh Amendment, National Archives. British Vice Admiralty Courts, conviction bonus, and forced travel to Halifax/London, documented in Colonial Grievances and the Declaration of Independence. $20 threshold in its economic meaning, reflected in 1790s wage records and contemporary accounts. Debates in the First Congress and state ratifying conventions, preserved in the Annals of Congress and Eliot's debates. Founding era understanding of civil jury trials, reflected in early state constitutions and common law. Modern civil jury cases and arbitration challenges, Supreme Court opinions. The story of the Eighth Amendment. In the winter of 1791, when the young United States was barely 3 years old, the people of the new nation added another final, non negotiable shield to their Constitution. It was one single sweeping sentence that became the Eighth Amendment, ratified on December 15th. Its words are short but cut to the bone. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. This was never three separate rules. It is one unified shield against government cruelty. The framers joined the bans on excessive bail, excessive fines, and cruel and unusual punishments into one sentence because they knew a simple truth. When the government can bankrupt you with bail or fines, or torture you under the name of justice, you are no longer a citizen, you are a broken subject. The price of royal vengeance. They wrote this because they remembered how the British used the justice system as a weapon of financial ruin and physical terror. Judges set bail so high that political opponents or ordinary debtors could never pay it, and simply rotted in jail for years, effectively holding them hostage before they were even convicted. Fines were deliberately set at amounts that would strip a man of everything he owned. Punishments were savage: branding on the face, whipping until the flesh hung in strips, the pillory where crowds threw rocks and filth. The framers rooted this amendment in the ancient common law rule of salvo continamento, saving the livelihood. A fine was considered excessive if it took away the tools a man needed to survive and work: the blacksmith's anvil, the farmer's plow, the carpenter's tools. To seize those was to sentence his entire family to starvation. They also banned unusual punishments to stop creative cruelty. No rogue judge could wake up and invent brand new freakish tortures that weren't written in the law. The Eighth Amendment was written so that no American government would ever again use the legal system to break people financially or physically. The world of 1791, this promise fit a world where most people lived on the edge of poverty. A farmer accused of a minor offense could lose everything if bail was set at an impossible sum, or a fine took his only cow or his winter grain. Cruel and unusual meant the government could not inflict the kind of barbaric suffering the British had used to terrorize the colonies. The amendment drew a hard line. Punishment must fit the crime, and the process must not be used as a tool to destroy the accused before he was even tried. In that rugged, self reliant society, the Eighth Amendment guaranteed that even the poorest citizen could not be crushed by unaffordable bail, ruinous fines, or savage punishments. From subject to citizen, the most radical part of the Eighth Amendment is its absolute command that these things shall not happen. It told the new federal government that it could not use money or pain as instruments of control. The framers turned the people from subjects who could be bankrupted or brutalized at a king's whim into citizens whose dignity and survival were protected by a clear limit on government power. The amendment is a straitjacket on vengeance. The state may punish, but it may not destroy. The shield in 2026, today the Eighth Amendment, still stands as a quiet but unbreakable limit on state power. It is the reason courts must consider a person's ability to pay before setting bail, that keeps the poor in jail while the wealthy walk free. It is the reason asset forfeiture and ruinous fines are increasingly challenged as excessive. It is the reason debates over the death penalty, solitary confinement, and prison conditions continue to ask the same question the framers asked in 1791: is this punishment cruel and unusual? Whether the issue is a poor defendant held for months because he cannot afford bail, a family bankrupted by government fines, or a prisoner facing inhumane conditions, the Eighth Amendment continues to say the same thing the framers wrote in 1791. The government may enforce the law, but it may never cross the line into financial ruin or human cruelty. So the Eighth Amendment is not some minor rule about bail and fines. It is the direct answer to the royal vengeance, the crushing fines, and the brutal punishments our ancestors fled and fought. By banning excessive bail, excessive fines, and cruel and unusual punishments in one unified sentence, the framers turned a simple promise of human dignity into a real, everyday safeguard for every citizen. It is the guarantee that no government can ever again use the justice system to break the bodies or the lives of the people it is supposed to serve. Sources all drawn from primary historical records and official archives. Official text of the Eighth Amendment, National Archives. British use of excessive bail, fines, and cruel punishments, including the Bloody Code, documented in English legal history and colonial grievances. Salvo contenimento, saving the livelihood principle, reflected in English common law and founding era writings. Debates in the First Congress and state ratifying conventions, preserved in the Annals of Congress, and Eliot's debates. Founding era understanding of cruel and unusual punishments, reflected in early state constitutions and common law. Modern excessive bail and fines cases, Supreme Court opinions, for example, Timms v. Indiana 2019. The story of the Ninth Amendment. In the winter of 1791, when the young United States was barely 3 years old, the people of the new nation added another final non negotiable shield to their Constitution. It was one single sweeping sentence that became the Ninth Amendment, ratified on December 15th. Its words are quiet but carry enormous power. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. This was never just one rule, it is one unified shield for all the rights the people already owned. The framers wrote this single sentence because they knew a simple truth. When a government writes down a list of rights, people might mistakenly believe those are the only rights that exist. The price of a limited list, they wrote this because Alexander Hamilton himself, in Federalist number 84, had strongly warned that a Bill of Rights was actually dangerous. He argued that listing specific rights, such as freedom of the press, would imply that the government had the power to regulate those things in the first place. Why declare that things shall not be done which there is no power to do, he asked. The Anti Federalists feared the new government would claim that any right not explicitly listed on paper simply didn't exist. James Madison solved this problem by adding the Ninth Amendment as a safety valve. It declared that the Bill of Rights is not a complete list, it is only a partial list. The people retain every right they had not specifically surrendered. The world of 1791, the framers viewed rights like an iceberg. The few rights they wrote down, speech, religion, arms, jury trials, were only the visible tip above the water. The Ninth Amendment acknowledged the massive unwritten weight of freedom beneath the surface, rights too numerous to ever list. These were natural rights that existed before any government was formed. The right to travel, to marry, to raise children, to work, to speak your mind in private letters, to move west and settle new land. In the old world, the king was the fountain of justice, and rights were mere grants from the crown. The Ninth Amendment flipped that forever. It declared that in America, the people are the fountain of power. Rights do not come from government permission. The government only receives the limited powers the people choose to grant it. The rest stay with the people. From subject to citizen, the most radical part of the Ninth Amendment is its quiet command that the listed rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage any others. It told the new federal government that it could not use the Bill of Rights as a cage to shrink liberty. The framers turned the people from subjects whose rights came only from what the king or parliament graciously allowed into citizens who retained every right they had not explicitly given away. The Ninth Amendment is the ultimate safety net. It protects the rights we haven't even thought of yet. The shield in 2026. Today, the Ninth Amendment still stands as the Constitution's great catch all. It is the reason the Supreme Court has recognized unenumerated rights such as the right to privacy, the right to marry whom you choose, the right to travel freely, the right to direct the upbringing of your children, and the right to refuse unwanted medical treatment. When people today ask, where in the Constitution does it say I have the right to husi, whether choosing their own job, moving to another state, or making intimate personal decisions, the correct answer is the Ninth Amendment. It is the permanent reminder that unwritten does not mean unprotected. The Bill of Rights is not a ceiling on liberty, it is a floor. So the Ninth Amendment is not some obscure legal footnote. It is the direct answer to the fear that listing rights would limit them. By declaring in one unified sentence that the people retain every right not specifically listed, the framers turned a simple promise of completeness into a real, everyday safeguard for every citizen. It is the guarantee that no government can ever again claim if it isn't written down, you don't have it. Sources all drawn from primary historical records and official archives. Higher official text of the Ninth Amendment, National Archives. Alexander Hamilton, Federalist number 84, 1788. James Madison's speech introducing the Bill of Rights, Annals of Congress, June 8, 1789. Anti Federalist concerns during ratification, especially letters from Brutus and the Virginia and New York ratifying conventions, preserved in the documentary history of the ratification of the Constitution. Founding era understanding of retained natural rights, reflected in the Declaration of Independence and early state constitutions. Modern unenumerated rights cases, Griswold v. Connecticut, Roe v. Wade, Obergefell v. Hodges, etc., Supreme Court opinions. The story of the 10th Amendment. In the winter of 1791, when the young United States was barely 3 years old, the people of the new nation added the final closing shield to their Constitution. It was one single sweeping sentence that became the 10th Amendment, ratified on December 15th. Its words are short but carry the full weight of the American Revolution. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. This was never just one rule. It is one unified shield for limited government and popular sovereignty. The framers placed this sentence at the very end of the Bill of Rights because they knew a simple truth. Even after listing specific protections, the greatest danger was a central government that would slowly claim every power not expressly forbidden. The price of unlimited power, they wrote this as the direct answer to the hated Declaratory Act of 1766, in which the British Parliament declared it had the power to legislate for the colonies in all cases whatsoever. That single phrase was the ultimate blank check, the legal justification for every tax, every regulation, and every intrusion. The framers responded by turning the federal government into a servant with a specific to do list. Just as a power of attorney to sell your house does not give a lawyer the right to marry off your children or sell your dog, the Constitution's list of federal powers, found in Article 1, Section 8, does not give Washington the right to run your schools, your local police, or your daily life. If a power is not explicitly delegated, the federal government simply does not have it. Everything else remains reserved to the states or to the people. The world of 1791, this promise fit a world of independent states and self reliant citizens. Most Americans still thought of themselves first as Virginians, Pennsylvanians, or Georgians. The federal government in the distant capital was small and weak by design. The 10th Amendment reassured them that the new Constitution did not create an all powerful national regime. It left everyday matters, education, local law enforcement, land use, family matters, commerce within a state, to the people and their state governments. The states kept the general police power, the broad authority to protect the health, safety, and morals of their citizens, while the federal government had only its narrow, enumerated powers. In that young, sprawling republic of farms, small towns, and frontier settlements, the 10th Amendment guaranteed that power would stay close to the people who lived under it. From subject to citizen, the most radical part of the 10th Amendment is its crystal clear division of power. It told the new federal government in plain language that it was not the source of all authority. James Madison called this arrangement double security for the rights of the people. The federal government checks the states, and the states check the federal government. The framers turned the people from subjects of an all powerful central ruler into citizens of a limited republic. The 10th Amendment is the constitutional proof that sovereignty ultimately rests with the states and the people, not with Washington. It is the final line in the Bill of Rights that says, "We, the people, created this government. It did not create us." The shield in 2026, today, the 10th Amendment remains the anchor of American federalism and the ultimate guardrail against federal overreach. It is the reason the Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled that the federal government cannot commandeer state and local officials. Forcing small town police to enforce federal gun laws or immigration policies is unconstitutional. States are not mere administrative offices for Washington. They are independent laboratories of democracy, as Justice Louis Brandeis famously described them. A single brave state can try a novel social or economic experiment without risking the whole country. If it fails, only that state suffers. If it succeeds, the other 49 can copy it. When debates arise over whether the federal government can regulate this or command that, the 10th Amendment still asks the same question the framers asked in 1791. Is this power actually delegated in the Constitution, or is it reserved to the states or the people? So the 10th Amendment is not some technical afterthought. It is the direct answer to the declaratory acts in all cases whatsoever, and the fear of an all powerful central government our ancestors fled and fought. By declaring in one unified sentence that all non delegated powers are reserved to the states or the people, the framers turned a simple promise of limited government into a real, everyday safeguard for every citizen. It is the guarantee that no matter how large or ambitious Washington becomes, the ultimate power still belongs to the states and to the people themselves. Sources, all drawn from primary historical records and official archives by official text of the 10th Amendment, National Archives. Declaratory Act of 1766. British statutes and colonial grievances recorded in the Declaration of Independence, anti-federalist concerns and federalist responses during ratification preserved in the documentary History of the Ratification of the Constitution and Eliot's Debates. James Madison, Federalist number 51, 1788, Double Security. Justice Louis Brandeis, New State Ice Company v. Liebman, 1932, Laboratories of Democracy. Modern 10th Amendment and Anti-Commandeering Cases, Prince v. United States, 1997, Murphy v. NCLAA, 2018, Supreme Court Opinions.
Well, that was amazing. I have never understood with such understanding. I hope you enjoyed this, and maybe this will give you a reason to comment below. Tell us your story and let me know what you think about this video. Thank you for spending time here at the White House News Channel. Please let me know what you liked, and please share, and you know what to do if you want to get more of this in the future. Have a wonderful day.
Father in heaven, I come before you, not trusting my own understanding, but asking you to show me what is true. Your word says there is a way that seems right to a man, but the end leads to death. Do not let me walk in what seems right to me, if it is not right before you. Search me and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Your word says my heart is deceitful above all things, so I do not trust myself. I ask you to correct me. If I have believed lies, if I have followed tradition over your instead of what is written. Open my eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of your law. Give me ears to hear and a heart to understand. Do not let me be blind while holding your word. Do not let me speak truth with my mouth while my heart is far from you. Sanctify me through your truth. Your word is truth. Open my eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of your law. Give me ears to hear and a heart to understand. Do not let me be blind while holding your word. Do not let me speak truth with my mouth while my heart is far from you. Sanctify me through your truth. Your word is truth, truth. Your word is truth. Your word is truth. Teach me to test everything. Teach me to hold fast only to what is good. If anything in me resist your truth, break it. If anything in me loves error, remove it. If anything in me chooses comfort over truth, correct it. I do not want what is easy. I want what is true. Lead me not by what I have heard, not by what I have been taught, but by every word that proceeds from you. Let me see clearly. Let me walk rightly. Let me obey fully in humility. I ask, do not leave me in blindness. Amen. Amen.
There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death, as written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 12.
All we like sheep have gone astray. Everyone turned to his own way, as written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 53, verse 6. Trusting voices, what we were told, holding tradition, letting go of what's written of old. Ever learning yet never come to the knowledge of truth from where it's from, as written in the book of 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 7. Reading lines but missing the light, holding the page but not seeing right. The heart is deceitful above all things, and desperately wicked, who can know it? As written in the book of Jeremiah chapter 17 verse 9. Blind leading blind, falling in the same pit every time. Eyes but cannot see, holding truth but not believing. You say you know the word, but you follow what you heard. Tradition over truth. Now the light is hid from you. Full well you reject the command just to hold what was taught by man, as written in the book of Mark chapter 7 verse 9. Making the word of God of none effect, through tradition you protect, as written in the book of Mark chapter 7 verse 13. Draw near with lips, honor with speech, but your heart is far from what I teach. the book of Mark, chapter 8, verse 18. Blind leading blind, falling in the same pit every time. Eyes but cannot see, light is there but you won't believe. You say you know the way, but you choose what men will say. Tradition over truth, now the light is hid from you.
Add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. As written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 30, verse 6. To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. As written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 8, verse 20.
Blind leading blind, but the truth is still alive. Eyes can be opened if you turn and seek and find. Not what you were told, but what the word has always shown. Tradition falls away when the truth is finally known.
Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. As written in the book of John, chapter 17, verse 17.
Father, I do not trust my own understanding. Show me what is true. There is a way that feels so right, but leads away from life all my life. I walk what I was told, holding words, but not what's written of old. We all like sheep have gone astray, turning our own way. If I am wrong, then show me now. I lay it down, I lay it down. Search me, oh God, and know my heart. Try me, know my thoughts. Open my eyes, let me see what is true in front of me. Not what I've heard, not what I feel, but what you've spoken, what is real. Break every lie, tear it down, even the things I built around. If I am wrong, make it clear. I choose your truth over what I hold dear. The heart can lead in hidden ways, far from truth, though it feels safe. So I don't trust what comes from me. I need your word to help me see, learning more but missing truth, holding tight to what I knew. If I believe what isn't right, correct me now, bring it to light. Open my eyes, let me see what was there in front of me. Open my eyes, let me see what is true in front of me. Not what I've heard, not what I feel, but what you've spoken, what is real. Break every lie, tear it down, even the things I built around. If I am wrong, make it clear. I choose your truth over what I hold dear. If it's
not. According to your word, there is no light in it. Your truth does not change. It remains when everything else fades.
Open my eyes, no matter the cost. Even if everything I knew is lost, take what's false, remove it all. I will follow when you call. Open my heart, make it move, not just to hear, but to live the truth. If I am blind, give me sight, lead me in truth, lead me in light.
Do not leave me in blindness.
Lead me in the way everlasting.
I thought it was you. Leading me.
I felt so sure, I felt so right. Everything in me said this is life. I called it faith, I called it truth.
Said your spirit was leading me through.
But there is a way
It feels so right,
and leads somewhere.
not life.
So now I stop and ask again,
Was it you
or was it me? The heart can lead
in hidden ways?
so strong, it feels like truth.
I thought it was you, I thought it was true. I felt it so strong. How could I be wrong?
I said you were leading me, but did I ever see if it matched your word, or just what I heard?
I said I was changed, said I was new, said I was walking the way of truth. I said I could see, I said I was right, said I was living in your light.
But many will say they knew your name and still be turned
Away, so now I tremble at that line.
Was I yours?
So just convinced in my mind.
Examine me,
Show me what's real,
not what I think.
but what you reveal. I thought it was you, I thought it was true. I felt it so deep, but feelings can deceive.
I said I could see, but was it just me?
Calling it you when it wasn't from you.
Test every voice, test every way. Hold it up,
To what you say,
if it's not true,
it falls apart, even if it lived
inside my heart.
If it's not your word, then it's not you. No matter how strong, no matter how true, take it all back.
Whatever I knew,
I don't wanna lie.
I want only you. If I was wrong, show me
The truth.
shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem, as written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 2, verse 3.
God told you where the truth would be, where it would come from, clearly see. It's written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 2, verse 3.
But you didn't go, you turned away, chose another voice to lead your way. You learned from men, you held it tight,
Never checked if it was right.
ask now are the days that are past, search the word that's built to last.
It's written in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verse 32.
But you searched everywhere but there.
Truth was written, you weren't aware.
There is a way that seems so right,
But ends in death, not life. It's written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 12.
you didn't go to the word, you went to what you heard.
You didn't search the truth.
You followed someone's proof,
You say you believe,
but you never looked.
you hold a faith.
That was never from the book.
Ever learning, still you miss. Truth was there, but not like this. It's written in the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 3, verse 7.
They turned your ears away from truth, filled your mind with something new.
It's written in the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 4, verse 4.
After your own desire you chose, teachers telling what you want to know.
It's written in the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 4, verse 3.
You read the lines but missed the call. The word was there but not at all.
The heart is deceitful above all things. It's written in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 9.
You didn't go,
To the word
you went to what
you heard,
you didn't test.
the voice, you just made a choice.
Tradition stands, but truth was ignored.
You built your faith
On something not from the Lord.
To the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. As written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 8, verse 20. They search the scriptures daily, whether those things were so. As written in the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 11.
Go back to the word.
Strip down
What you've heard.
Test every line,
Don't follow blind.
not what they say,
Not what you knew.
only what's written will carry you through.
Prove all things. Hold fast that which is good. I am the Lord. I change not. As written in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 6. Your word was true from the start, settled forever, never departs. As written in the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 160.
Not one line fades, not one word bends. Truth doesn't move, it never depends. But I have walked what felt so right, trusted myself instead of the light.
There is a way that seems so true, but leads to death if I follow through.
It's written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 12.
So if there's change, it's not in you.
You don't change,
Your word stands true.
So if I'm wrong,
Then I must move,
not truth to me.
but me the truth.
You don't change.
I do. Add not to what you have said, lest I be found a liar instead, as written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 30, verse 6. I held on tight to what I knew, but never tested if it was you. Ever learning, still not seeing. Truth was there, but I wasn't believing, as written in the book of 2 Timothy, chapter
3, verse 7.
My heart can lead me far astray if I don't stop and check the way.
The heart is deceitful above all things, is written in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 9. You don't change.
Your word stands true.
So if I'm wrong,
Then I must move,
no,
not what I feel,
not what I knew,
not what I knew.
not what I knew, but what is written, I hold to you. You don't change.
I do. To the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them, as written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 8, verse 20. Sanctify them through thy truth,
Thy word is truth.
as written in the book of John, chapter
17, verse 17. You don't change.
Not even a line.
So take what's mine,
And realign.
break what's wrong.
Remove what's not you.
I lay it down, I come to truth. You don't change.
I do.
Search me.
And lead me in the way everlasting.
If I love you,
I obey. If you love me, keep my commandments, as written in the book of John, chapter 14, verse 15.
I said I loved you, said it out loud, lifted my voice in front of the crowd. But love is not what I say. If I walk off the narrow way, why call me Lord and not obey? As written in the book of Luke, chapter 6, verse 46.
I knew the words, I knew the sound, but truth is proven in what is found.
Not just hearing, not just name. If nothing changes, what's the claim? If I love you, I obey. Not just words that fade away. Not my will,
But what you say, if I love you, I obey.
Hereby we know that we know him, if we keep what comes from him. It's written in the book of 1 John, chapter 2, verse 3.
He that saith, I know his name, but keeps not truth is not the same. It's written in the book of 1 John, chapter 2, verse 4.
love is not a feeling I claim. It's what I do when no one sees.
Not emotion, not display.
Truth is walked day by day. If I love you, I obey. Not just words that fade away. Not my will, but what you say.
says your name will enter in because they came. But he that does the Father's will, as written in the book of Matthew chapter 7 verse 21.
So I won't speak what I won't live, I won't claim what I don't give.
Oh, this is love,
Clear and true,
not what I feel,
but what I do
for this is love,
to keep your ways.
as written in the book of 1 John chapter 5 verse 3.
So I lay down what fights inside and walk it out, not running high.
Shade my way.
If I love you, I obey.
Blessed are they that hear the word of God and keep it, as written in the book of Luke chapter 11 verse 28.